On this episode, we talk about Pinterest, Twitter, the value to your funeral home, and what happens when you're not an admin and somebody else in your funeral home takes over your Facebook page and you fire them.
Welcome to the present. This was meant for a different song. My cousin Nat, she put me on. I said this gotta be the intro. I welcome you to hear this collection. It's just me expressing my lessons, stresses, and blessings, and testing the waters, trying to change the culture. No hands out or hands over mouth.
Hey everybody, welcome to episode 24 of the DISRUPTu show. I'm your host, Ryan Thogmartin. This is the funeral profession's most disruptive web show. We're gonna get right into it right away. Ready? Spud me. I'm the owner of my funeral home, but I'm not the admin of our Facebook page. So this is a grave mistake. And when I say that, I'm going to tell you why I say that. We have worked with multiple clients where the owner themselves were not personally on Facebook. So what happened in turn was somebody else in the funeral home who was created the funeral home's Facebook page and became the primary admin. Why this is bad and can be a grave mistake is when that employee leaves or gets fired. And I'm going to give you an example of what happens in that situation when nobody else in the funeral home is an admin and the owner is not an admin to that Facebook page. So we have a client who we started working with where the Facebook page was created by an employee at the funeral home because the owner personally did not have Facebook. That employee got fired. No one else in the funeral home has admin access to that Facebook page. What happens in that scenario is we as an agency cannot get admin access to that Facebook page because there's no one in the funeral home that can give us access. Also, now that person who you fired and is upset has complete control over your brand on Facebook, and it is virtually impossible for you as the funeral home owner, even though you own the business, to be able to go to Facebook and get them to give you ownership back of that Facebook page. What's happened in this scenario is now that that employee who is fired has primary access to the Facebook page with all of these followers and all this engagement, they are trying to delete the funeral home Facebook page, and the funeral home is working with Facebook to try to block that from happening. What ends up happening is we have to create a new page, try to merge the page, provide multiple documents to Facebook that prove that XYZ funeral director is owner of XYZ funeral home, get the pages merged, get ownership shifted back to the funeral home. So it requires creating a whole new brand page, multiple weeks of working with Facebook. So this is an absolutely huge mistake. If yourself as the owner is not on Facebook, you need to just create a personal profile that is private just so you can have admin access to the funeral home Facebook page and give your employees editor access and not full-blown admin capabilities on Facebook. We can help you with this process if this is the situation in your funeral home where you as the owner are not an admin on your Facebook page. We can help you get this done, but at the end of the day, this is your brand. You've got to be the admin, or your spouse be the admin. That way somebody that's ownership executive level has primary admin access to your Facebook page and controls who other admins are and what permissions they have to manage your Facebook page. Spud me. Should I link my Facebook with my Twitter account? Man, this is a question that we get asked all the time. So funeral homes that want to be involved in multiple networks, I think it's very easy, fine. We will link our Twitter account to our Facebook page. Whenever we post something on Facebook, it'll automatically duplicate and post to our Twitter account. Here's why this is not good. Getting somebody from Twitter over to Facebook is extremely difficult. So when you post a link or any update on your Facebook page, what's going to happen is when it automates and goes to Twitter, it's putting in a link in that tweet back to that post on Facebook, and the conversion rates are absolutely terrible from Twitter over to Facebook. People are in Twitter for a reason, and content on Twitter is different than content on Facebook. The conversation, the theme of that conversation is completely different. The way a message is crafted is completely different on Twitter than it is on Facebook. So no, it is not valuable to link your Facebook account to your Twitter account. each post on Facebook can be the same on Twitter. It just needs to be crafted correctly for the network that is going on. So should you link your Facebook to your Twitter account? No. Spud me. Man, I almost dropped this because that light is right in my eyeballs. All right, are Twitter and Pinterest valuable social networks for my funeral home? Listen, all networks provide some sort of value if the demographic you're trying to reach is there, right? So on Pinterest, the most valuable demographic is that female audience, which is exactly the audience the funeral home wants to hit, that 45 to 65-year-old female. They're very engaged there. It skews younger as well on Pinterest. However, for a local brand that only operates in about a 10-mile radius or 15-mile radius around their physical location, it's very hard to target locally on Pinterest unless you are doing a lot of promoted pins and spending a lot of money there. So when a pin goes viral or pins get shared and repinned on somebody else's pin board, if that engagement is coming from California and Australia and cities that are hundreds of miles away from your location, you're doing a lot of work and it's not providing a lot of value because it's really only valuable to you in your local market. It's a very hard network to localize content. If you're a national brand and you operate all over, let's use an example, let's say Dignity Memorials. Good idea for them to do Pinterest from a brand's perspective because they can create a lot of pin boards nationally. They have locations almost anywhere in the country that somebody needs one of their services. So as a national brand, it makes sense. As a local individual funeral home, Pinterest doesn't make as much sense for the amount of time that it takes to manage that network over half the time to manage Facebook, where 99% of your audience already lives. Twitter, same sort of thing. That conversation isn't as heavy on the funeral home side as it is on Facebook. Facebook's the lovey-dovey network. That's the kind of engagement that people want to have with a funeral home. It's okay to have a presence on Twitter, but if you're going, do I do Facebook, Twitter, Pinterest? What network should I do? If you have a limited amount of time, you're paying somebody to do it, Facebook is where you're going to get the most value for your dollar and where it makes the most sense. Being represented on Pinterest and Twitter aren't going to be bad, but if you can't effectively manage those and you're taking time away from Facebook to go manage here, your time is much better spent and your money from a marketing perspective is much better spent on Facebook than it is Twitter or Instagram. Okay, if you have questions, send them to us. Check out the address. We're going to throw it in a box right here where you can mail us a spud with a question on it or email me. And Josh will put the email address right here, ryan@disruptmedia.co. Shoot me an email with your question. We'll answer it on the show, and we'll also send you a free t-shirt. For the first 10 people who send in a question, we're going to kick you out a new t-shirt. So until next time, keep disrupting.
Paycheck, bring out your representative. Being real is too hard. It's easy if we pretend again. No matter what your vices, we all gonna pay the prices. Little with sacrifices, we living in some type of crisis.